get near the drill. They might hear it.
Hello people! Today we shall look at how to stealth the border crossing heist. For this video, I'll assume that we already know how the heist roughly works, so some parts will only be touched briefly. My strategy today will be focused on the death sentence difficulty, with the aim to complete the heist as safely as possible with minimal risks taken, suitable for both solo and multiplayer. I will also assume and exclude bugs that will be potentially fixed, like guards ignoring loot bags, as well as being able to fuel the plane magically with air. Let's start with understanding the heist. On the US side, it is pretty much big oil day one. There will always be 16 pagerless bikers and 3 civilians at all times, with a further RNG spawned civilian or biker around the left tunnel door location. Of these 16 bikers, one will be a camera guard on the second floor, behind one of the 2 blue doors. I advise to take him down as early as possible. Then there are also 4 bikers which will roam around the level. These guys can on occasion be stuck or frozen like the Murkies on Shadow Raid, due to their waypoints and closed doors. The remaining bikers are either static or simply walk back and forth between 2 points. The civilians are also pretty straightforward, either static or contained in a small zone and can be taken down or ignored to our discretion. The important one to control is this guy, as his route brings him past the shed on the right, which we will drill open. There we have the red door or the briefing room. The keys to this door will be found in 6 possible places on the first floor, which will be shown in video clips at the end of the guide. If the keys were not bought with pre-planning, there will be a 5% chance for the briefing room to already be open. Nothing too useful there, but it's a nice bonus. Then on hard and above, there's a 35% chance the briefing room is booby-trapped with C4. There will be a 15 seconds countdown upon entering, with the total C4 count being human players plus 1, each taking 4 seconds to defuse without any interaction boost. It's nothing too difficult, but it's still best to have everyone work on it, as the explosion breaks stealth instantly. Then on the briefing room table, we'll have a floor plan, with the knife indicating where the tunnel entrance is, as well as a clue to the keypad code. I've already covered this in another video, so check that out instead. Other than the clues, we'll also find a crowbar and a keycard, which will be needed in Mexico. For a solo player, a second keycard will be waiting specially for us in Mexico, while for multiplayer, we can get another crowbar and keycard by drilling open the 2 storage sheds. Just be sure to take out the roaming bikers and civilians first. Or just duplicate the ones on the table. There will also be a safe on the floor containing a set of blueprints. Since we're doing a minimum loot run, I don't recommend picking it up, as an extra gangster will spawn alongside the vault. Finally, if things go sideways, we can drop an ECM, head for the tunnel, and despawn everyone else. Though it's probably just easier to restart. And that's all for Arizona, USA. Next up, Mexico. Okay, this is the layout. Starting with the 2 hangars, we'll find one housing the escape plane and loot secure point, while the other contains loot cages. Then we have the open grounds, as well as a smaller warehouse Santanico and a bigger warehouse Culebras. The basement containing the vault will appear in Culebras if we picked up the blueprints earlier. Now for the spawns. On this side of the border, there will be 3 kinds of enemies. This one right here comes equipped with pages, while the other 2 doesn't. As for the ones with pages, there's a total of 8. 1 patrols the ground floor of Santanico, 3 patrols the open grounds, 2 ground floor of Culebras, and the last 2, second floor of Culebras. Bear in mind that the ones on the ground floor of Culebras can occasionally enter the basement if spawned, so don't leave any bodies for them to find. Then for the ones without pages, there will be 11. 2 pairs of static gangsters, 4 total, will occupy 2 of these 3 possible spots. Then another 2 will be in the north area between the warehouses, where 2 weapons and an annoying radio will be. Next, the camera guard, always on the second floor of Culebras, next to either the cage control room or the pantry. What's left is the last group of gangsters. Of 5 possible gangsters, 4 will spawn. 2 patrolling the open grounds, 2 in and around Culebras, ground floor only, and the last possible one around the pantry. Also, not forgetting the vault for when we want the armor, it comes with 1 extra gangster which patrols in a predictable anti-clockwise pattern. And the last type of NPCs, civilians. 1 will always be in the plain hangar with some juicy storyline bits, while 2 out of 3 possible civilians will spawn for each warehouse, making it a total of 5. Next is a tip on doors and pathways. Just like on every stealth heist, the more doors we've opened, the more pathways NPCs can move through, so keep it to a minimum. But here are a few that I would always open. I'll always open both this rear door and shutter of the Santanico warehouse, because it has a long sideline, allowing us to spot the patrolling guard with less risk. Beware though, the guard on rare occasions can walk through them. Also, if only one of the 2 is opened, the guard can path out and get stuck, so keep both open. For the back of Culebras, I'll open up these 2 doors to complete a crossing at the north end of the map. One of the gangsters inside can enter the room, but he's usually not alive for long. Then this left door at the front end of the loading bay deserves a special mention. If left closed, up to 2 enemies can patrol out and get stuck permanently on the loading bay. This usually happens naturally on its own, so don't be surprised when it does. And next we have the door all the way at the other end. This can be safely opened since no one will path through it. Last but not least, the hangars. Opening the shutter or opening both doors will allow guards to path in or through it. I'll only open 1 door each on the extreme ends, but that will only make sense when we discuss the strategy later. Then we have the roof, though not a path or doorway, can be very useful. 1 player can be stationed here permanently to act as a spotter, marking enemies for the other players to avoid. Okay, time for the loot now. Disregarding the 2 guaranteed weapons here, there will always be 13 pieces of the required loot scattered randomly across the entire map. They can be found in the loot cages, in the election day style crates, money and cocaine only, and also in one special case, a weapon sitting on the shelf in this section of Santanico. This means that to get the 12 pieces of required loot on death sentence, we must visit every location. And speaking of loot cages, these can be opened either by drilling, a silent saw, or a keycard. Drilling is impossible if there are guards patrolling around, so that leaves us with either the saw, the riskier option, or the keycard, the safest option. For multiplayer, we should already have 2 keycards from Arizona. Otherwise, an additional keycard for the solo player will either be on the table in the pantry or just outside it. The loot cages in Culebras though are slightly special and can additionally be opened by using the cage controls. Pick a cage to release the lock for 30 seconds, then interact with the card reader to open it permanently, without spending a keycard of course. One interesting piece of information is that the loot hanger will contain only 1 piece of the required loot. So if we can't access the plane yet, like in my strategy, we can always deduce the required loot by poking around and counting. Also, the left and right cages can be safely drilled open, regardless of cameras. But the one in the center is under watch by the camera on the right, so just keep it looped. Now, with what we've discussed so far, no keycards were used yet. This leaves us with 3 Santanico cages, 2 girls, and 1 cup. 3 cages, 2 keycards, and 1 question. Will we ever need to open all 3 cages? The answer to that is yes, but only when the required loot is money, at a 6.3% chance, which becomes an even more negligible 2.1% if we factor in cocaine and weapons, so don't worry about it. But other than that, just use the keycards on the 2 cages which will give us the most loot. Then we'll look at some miscellaneous stuff like crowbars. In case the 2 crowbars from Arizona are not enough, a further 2 will spawn, enough for the entire team in 5 possible locations. I don't want to show them now, so check out the clips at the end. I'll also leave a map to show which crates can contain stuff, so check that out later. Now to the last bit, the refueling. Once the hose is hooked up to the plane, the generator is guaranteed to break down for the first time after 20 to 30 seconds. Upon the first refuel, there will be a 50% chance for a final second breakdown after a same 20 to 30 seconds. And after refueling the second time, or if the 50% roll fails, the generator will no longer break down. This means that 2 gas cans are needed at most. Across the map in each warehouse, there will be 2 gas cans spread out in 5 possible locations, totaling to 4 gas cans always. Again, at update 198.2, this particular location is bugged. But there's still 3 gas cans, so it's no big deal. And as per usual, video clips for the locations will be shown later. Then the final detail is that the whole refueling process, excluding breakdowns, takes 90 seconds. Why is this important? First, if we do go loud before it is complete, an additional 30 seconds will be added to the timer. Not to mention all the death sentence units swarming in. Secondly, on the bright side, depending on our progress and number of ECMs on hand, we still have a chance to complete the mission. So don't be in a hurry to restart. Drop ECMs and keep going. And that's all the intel I have. Oh gosh, I've been talking a lot, but we are only like halfway through the video. So let's take a short break. Okay, we're back. Time to make a strategy. The Overkill Tavern is pretty straightforward and shouldn't need any extra prep or pre-planning. For a solo player, it's straightforward. Keys, briefing room, keycard, crowbar, the code, and on to Mexico. It's the multiplayer part that gets slightly complicated because storage sheds and second keycard. Or just duplicate the first one. But otherwise, this is my all-purpose strategy. First, we take out the camps, because it's a real danger, as well as the other 2 bikers on the second floor. Then we secure the storage sheds by taking down the 3 other roaming bikers, as well as these other 2 civilians should they spawn before placing the drills. And the rest is simple. Clear the objectives by being sneaky or go blasting, and proceed on to Mexico. This side of the border is where all the difficult stuff is, so let's work out a strategy first. Again, as safe as possible and bare minimum loot. Otherwise, for all loot, we'll look at it later. So to start, as always, taking out the camera operator is our first priority when we reach Culebras, because once a camera goes off, there is no saving this situation. Then next, as we recall, there are 8 pages. How should we spend them? The lone guard in Santanico, as well as the 3 guards on the outside, will be easy to avoid as long as we take precautions, so that leaves us the Culebras warehouse. Tightly spaced, heavily populated, and full of loot. In short, a nest of danger which we must enter. So let's clear it out totally, making it a safe zone. Up next is something I call the circular approach. Whenever we have to, instead of cutting across the open grounds where we can get surrounded or bump into patrols, we travel in a loop along the relatively safer edges of the map. For the hangars, before the refueling is required, we will only open one door each on the extreme ends. This stops guards from padding through, preventing any unexpected surprises and making them safe zones. The final touch is to place trip mines at each crossing to give us early warnings should any enemy be in the area. So all in all, this approach is a little time consuming, but ultimately has almost zero risk as long as one does not get complacent. And to help make all the above happen, pre-planning. Aside from the obvious body bag assets, there are 2 or 3 options which are highly useful. First would be the ladder access to the second floor of Santanico from the warehouse front. I find it much safer to travel on top, reducing the chances of bumping into the lone guard. Then we'll repeat for Culebras, except that instead of the second floor, it goes to the roof. This allows a player to act as a support spotter as mentioned earlier in the video. For the location, I'll place it at the right, because there is already a spiral staircase at the left end. The staircase inside the warehouse is pretty much a death trap, as the meth cooks have very sharp eyes, so avoid that at all costs. And the last one would be camera access, useful when trying to clear out Culebras, but loses its value after that, since we can always use the camera operator's station. For deployables is up to personal preference. ECMs can be useful for any late game screw-ups, but I prefer trip mines to mark NPCs. And yes, many body bags for the many bodies. With our strategy formed, it's time for action. If we spawn near a hangar, we'll first check it, and if it's loot, deduce the loot type and get it up. If we're on the left side, we'll have to pass through Santanico. Climb the ladder to the second floor for safe-ish passage and use our keycards while we are here. Upon reaching the space between the warehouses, or if we start here, we'll wait for the weapon gangsters to move away before taking the circular stairs up into Culebras. We can take these gangsters out later if we wish to, but not while the cameras are up. And finally, if we start from the right end, simply climb the ladder up to the roof, then watch for enemies below, drop down to the ledge, and enter the offices. It will be tempting to kill the 2 static thugs at the truck if they're there, but resist the urge, because there is usually a camera nearby and also a possible thug overlooking from a window. And after taking all the steps above, we should now be on the second floor of Culebras and ready to clear it up. In any order, we'll take out the cam operator and the 2 pager guards. The officers are usually a good place to do so. Just wait patiently for them to patrol in and take them down. Then right after, we'll work on the ground floor. There should be 2 civilians, 2 pager guards, and 1 or 2 pagerless enemies, 3 if the vault is spawned, to take out. Watch out that no one is nearby outside when taking down the worker near the forklift. Once this is done, Culebras is secured. After that, it's pretty much slow and steady, moving all the loot with the circular approach. We can kill any of the external pagerless thugs, especially the static ones if they are near the hangar. With the looting done, just watch out for the patrols before assembling the fuel line. It is best to let them spread out first, as they can box us in when their paths cross. Then for the gas cans, I'll usually try to pick one up while sneaking through Santanico, and then a second one if needed from the already cleared Culebras. Lastly, drop ECMs is spotted and try to finish. We may still have a chance. Now, what about all the loot for the money-grubbing heisters out there? Again, with regards to safety, I would still recommend clearing out Culebras. This leaves us with the same Santanico setup, except that our keycards are already spent on the vault. Drilling the cages is out, So what remains is the saw, though that will bring up our detection risk. We could have another player hang back on the stealth, sneak in to saw the cages, and then retreat back out of sight. Another alternative would be to spend a pager on the lone guard, leaving one alive in Culebras, though that sounds pretty impractical. Alright, and that's finally the end of this very long video. Many clips will be coming up, as well as a solo gameplay. The build used in this video is rather unique, I would say. Apart from the usual stealth stuff, I had some skills from the sharpshooter, oppressor, and silent killer tree to be able to run and gun, as well as make my weapons very accurate. Then I took the crook deck and skills in the tank tree to get as much armor as possible for the LBV to synergize with transporter ace. By doing this, I lose 2% speed overall compared to the suit, but gain 10% speed when carrying bags heavier than money, like weapons and body bags. This is the best no DLC option if we don't have Yakuza or Anarchist. Then weapons wise, most noticeable would be the 5.7 AP pistol. Someone suggested, sorry I can't remember who, to shoot the camera operator through the door. Ever since then, I've tried using it in different places, but usually end up breaking stuff behind and alerting other enemies. In the end, the best use of the 5.7 is to shoot multiple enemies in a line reliably without alerting any one of them. Okay, you guys have heard enough from me, so enjoy the clips, hope it helps your stealth run, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Marks in sight!
Has a clubhouse right by the border in Miracle Valley, Arizona, with a hidden underground tunnel. My old platoon commander once said, Buck will arrange that for you. Okay, friends, let's get to it. After this...
Good case, the joint. I'm ready for action when things go loud.
Okay, you chops. Time to find that tunnel entrance. They would probably want easy access to the tunnel, so check around outside. Nice going, taking out the cameras.
God, stay back. On the ground!
Use the civvies to your advantage.
Look out.
The tunnel entrance should be outside somewhere.
Now, down! Fireworks! Stay back!
They would probably want easy access to the tunnel, so check around outside. It's Redo C4. Look out, friends. hide somewhere.
Found it!
Oh, that's a tunnel entrance if ever I've seen one. Okay, get to searching for the answer to that code. Oh, that was it. Nice. Okay, get into that tunnel. Time for a visit to Mexico. Nice night for a yawl in the desert. Try to stay quiet. Your first priority is finding your ride out of there. Maybe check the hangars, yeah?
Eyes on the mark.
Okay, that's it. When you've got the loot aboard, you need to juice it up as well. Time to start looking for that stash of murky water contraband. It's weapons we're after. Oh, you'd think the feds would have found this place and cleared it out.
God. Camera. God. God, careful. God. Watch out, God. God on patrol. God. Everything is cool. Maybe your speaker is making things up.
Okay, that makes sense.
God, stay back.
reminds me of an op I did many years ago when I was still a larty, QPOing ABC-80 computers. We were in this enemy compound in Cambodia and my handler got eaten by a tiger. Twanky guck he was. My handler, not the tiger.
God, careful. God. God.
Hey, stop masturbating over there and answer the pager. Cameras are now disabled.
I'm new to this.
Okay, but what's going on with your voice? It sounds strange.
God. God, stay back. Look out, God. God, careful. Look out, God. God, careful. Look out, God. God. God on patrol. God, stay back. Look out, God. Watch out, God. God. Look out, God. Watch out, God. 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 God on patrol. God, careful. God.
What's going on?
The radio is near my crotch. My boner pressed the button, not me.
Okay, man. But quit horsing around.
God, careful. Look out, God. God.
Oh, you'd have think the feds would have found this place and cleared it out.
Get down!
Hey, what's going
Down!
on? Report in. Great, friends. More hostages will slow
Sorry,
the
Control.
coppers.
I fell asleep on the bottom.
I don't know. Something's not right here. Next time I'll sound the alarm.
On the ground! On the ground! Come with me!
others from getting close to the drill. This whole thing could go bukak if someone gets too close. Make sure the area near the drill is clear of people. It will draw unwanted attention. Let no one get near the drill. This whole thing could go bukak if someone gets too close. Stop others from getting close to the drill. They might hear it.
Guard, stay back. Guard on patrol. Look out, guard. Guard.
Let no one get near the drill. All that grinding might tip them off, yeah?
Watch out, guard.
This reminds me of an op I did many years ago when I was still a larty, cupoing APC-80 computers. We're in this enemy compound in Cambodia and my handler got eaten by a tiger. Twanky guck he was. My handler, not the tiger.
Guard. Guard, careful. Guard, stay back.
Gobbers don't like it when you shoot civvies.
Look out, guard. Guard, stay back.
resources to back the dentist in all this? Is he the top of the food chain? Or is there more to this braai?
Watch out. Guard. Guard. Stay back. Look out. Guard.
Oh, you'd think the feds would have found this place and cleared it out.
Watch out, guard. Guard on patrol. Guard. Watch out, guard. Guard, careful. Guard.
This reminds me of an op I did many years ago when I was still a latte, occupying APC-80 computers. We were in this enemy compound in Cambodia and my handler got eaten by a tiger. Twanky guck he was. My handler, not the tiger.
Look out, guard.
Can't use those civvies once they're dead.
Watch out, guard. Guard, careful. Guard on patrol.
back the dentist in all this? Is he the top of the food chain? Or is there more to this braai?
God. God. God, stay back. Look out, God. God. God, careful. God on patrol. God, stay back. God. God, careful.
Oh, you'd think the feds would have found this place and cleared it out.
Look out, God. God, careful.
out on your asses if you keep killing civvies.
Watch out, guard. Guard. Guard, stay back. Guard. Guard, careful.
This reminds me of an op I did many years ago when I was still a latte, buying APC-80 computers. We're in this enemy compound in Cambodia and my handler got eaten by a tiger. Twanky guck he was. My handler, not the tiger.
Look out, guard. Guard, stay back. Guard. Guard, careful. Look out, guard. Guard. Watch out, guard. Guard on patrol. Guard, careful. Guard. Look out, guard. Guard.
Gotta wonder who has the resources to back the dentist in all this.
Guard.
Is he the top of the food chain? Or is there more to this prey?
Guard, stay back. Guard.
That's one. That's two. That's three. 4 bags. That's 5. 6 bags. That's 7. That's 8. Keep going, friends. 2 more. You only need 1 more. This is not a good day for murky water or the dentist, yeah? Time to juice up that plane. Get the fuel hose connected.
God. God, stay back. God on patrol. God, careful. Look out, God. God, careful. God on patrol. God. God, stay back. God. God, stay back. Look out, God.
How's the refueling going?
God, control. Watch out, God. God, control. God. God, stay back. Watch out, God. God. Watch out, God.
Just got to give it some time to fill.
Look out, God. God, careful. Look out, God. Watch out, God.
Ah, come on. The pump stopped. Maybe it needs more juice.
God, stay back. God. God on patrol. God, careful. God. God, stay back. God.
You can probably find fuel in one of the warehouses.
Look out, God. Watch out, God. God, stay back. God, careful. God on patrol. Watch out, God. God. Look out, God. Watch out, God. Look out, God. God.
That'll keep it going for now.
God. Watch out, God. God. God on patrol. Watch out, God. God. God, careful. God.
time to disconnect the hose. The plane is all full.
God.
You need to open the runway gates. It's gonna be yawn, and the Murkies will go crazy when we take off. Good. Now it's time to leave. Get on board that thing as quickly.
God. Watch out. God. God, stay back. God. God, careful. God.
No time to sit around. You gotta go.
God. God, careful. God on patrol. God, careful. Look out. God. Watch out. God. God. Watch out. God. God. God on patrol. Look out. God. God. Watch out. God. God, careful. God on patrol. God. Look out. God. God on patrol. Watch out. God. God on patrol. Look out. God. God on patrol. God, stay back. God, careful. Look out. God. God. God on patrol. God, careful. God on patrol. God. Watch out. God. God on patrol. Look out. God. Watch out. God. God, stay back. God. 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 Watch the camera. God, careful. God. God, careful. God. Watch out. God. Look out. God. Camera, stay back. God. God, careful. God. God. Camera. Watch out. God. God. God, careful. Watch out. God. God on patrol. Watch out. Guard. Guard on patrol. Look out. Guard. Guard, stay back. Guard. Look out. Guard. Guard, stay back. Watch out. Guard. Guard on patrol.
Well, that got a little more out of hand than I was expecting. The dentist will definitely know who did this.